Okay. Jeff, can you give me a rundown, and this will probably help the petitioners of what we're doing today?
Well, we have received a appeal of a driveway permit. That appeal is the subject of this hearing pursuant to our code. They have a right to appeal that decision to the county commissioners. Julie is the president of the county commissioners. So typically the process as we move forward is, I'll swear in anybody who's going to give testimony. And I'm sorry if you see the back of my head, I'm directing my.
That's okay. We're good.
I'll swear in anybody who's going to give testimony. You as the appellant will go first and say, hey, here's the situation. Here's why we feel that this is an erroneous decision and that the reasons for that ordinance shouldn't apply to you. The highway department will then have a chance to respond, and then you will have a chance to respond back to them. If it happens and we move through and we want to have you guys talk together to see if there's some kind of other solution there, we may pause this, we may let that go on in front of the commissioners, but that's generally it, right? And so if you guys are ready, I'd want anybody who is going to give any kind of testimony today to raise their hand. And you affirm the information you're about to give today is the truth.
Yes.
I would just note for the record, I don't know how well Zoom does that 4 people, everyone in this room except Lee and I have said that they will tell you the truth.
Okay.
But you knew that.
I like attorneys. So can I have you, Jeff, go around the room like counterclockwise, starting with your right, and have people tell me who they are?
Hi, Julie. I'm Jennifer Bose. I am co-owner of the property of 4333 North Maple Grove Road.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Bose, spouse of Jennifer, resident 4333 North Maple Grove, Bloomington, Indiana.
Thank you.
Hi, Julie. I'm Lee Baker.
Hi, Lee.
You know me.
Julia Ayers, Monroe County Highway.
Yep. Good to see you, Ben. Good to see you, Lisa.
Hi, Julie.
Can't miss you in the orange, Lisa.
Hey, it's Highway Orange.
I like it. I like it. Good. Okay. Thank you so much. So who wants to start with the appeal?
Yeah.
I can start, Julie. So I've lived at this residence since 2007. We have a very steep driveway. Typically in inclement weather, I will park on the side, and it was grass up until what was that? November 21, I believe, is when we had the driveway installed.
The second driveway.
The second driveway. And it was our fault. We hired based off of a neighbor's recommendation, I don't even know if he's licensed, an excavator. And the excavator at that time told us that we didn't need any type of permits or anything because it wasn't a permanent structure, I think is what he used, because it wasn't concrete. So we thought it was fine. And then we have received notification from the highway department that we did indeed need a permit. So I applied, and then it was denied due to being a second driveway. We also, in that time, we have, I think it was in July and then also October of 21, we had 2 teenage drivers. So that's why we wanted to have it more done, because the grass area where we would park whenever the weather was bad would get muddied. Because literally when you go down that driveway, like if I was in the morning, I've many times went across the road into the neighbor's grass. So that was more of a safety issue, as well as giving us extra room for a driveway.
Can I ask you a quick question? I'm looking at the overhead picture, the pictometry shot of your house, of your property. And there's a pool, a house, and then a driveway that's in line with the pool. That's the permanent cement driveway.
Correct.
The other one you're talking about kind of goes off under a tree and off to the side. Okay.
north of the property.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Sure.
that's great. Thank you so much. I just needed to get oriented and make sure I understood. Okay. Mr. Bose, did you want to add anything?
Well, just to elaborate, my wife mentioned the individual that we hired. He is licensed and insured. I'm to assume that he is still licensed and insured. And really just, I've kind of since receiving notification of, permit denial and ordinance violation, looked at the ordinance in place, and it references, site distances, for our property and amount of traffic. So I don't have those details. I hope that the county department could share that with us. I feel that our permanent driveway, if you turn to the south, it's a 90-degree turn onto Maple Grove Road. I at times feel there could be cautionary, concerns there as well, because there's I don't know what degree, what angle of rise there is to the nearest intersection, but so just, I know there are several considerations that are taken in place when, enforcing an ordinance. And I just stress that upon placing the second driveway, that the current ordinance was unbeknownst to us. Had we known that, we probably would have, not installed it or filed for a permit initially. So I don't know if that's of any value, but that's what I have to add to be taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the appeal that we should know right now, and we can come back? We'll come back to you. No? Okay,
Further from me?
okay. So I don't know, Ben or Lisa, which of you wants to?
I'll let Ben go into the details of it since he's been more involved closely than I have, and he is the one that does our permits. I will add that the driveway was denied due to being a second drive on the same lot.
Mhm.
It wasn't anything to do with site distance, or we didn't have an issue. That was not the problem. It's in our code that nobody is permitted a second drive on their lot unless there's some type of medical reason that's the need for it. So, and I'll let Ben go over some more of the details.
Yeah, the site distance and everything wasn't a problem. The only problem was with the second driveway entrance. And I can show you the record that, you met site distance. I did not check your existing drive because there wasn't an application for it. I just looked at the new drive. Everything met, except for the drainage pipe.
Was
We
there a
require-
installed?
Yeah, there was a pipe installed that has to be metal, not plastic.
I'm not sure of the diameter either, what the
Yeah.
diameter requirement on
Our minimum is
Primary.
a 12-inch, but usually if I think that it would require a bigger pipe than that, I always bring in stormwater to size the pipe.
And the reason why it's in our code is, of course, for safety for traveling motorists of less driveways entering a county road. The less driveways we can have, of course, it's better off for the traveling public.
Okay, is Ben, can you talk a bit more? So there is a culvert pipe under the cement driveway, the one that's permitted.
I believe there is. I did not inspect that driveway. That no application was turned in for that one.
So if I can add to that, two years ago, the county was there to increase the easement or ditching on the front of our property, and in that process, they cleared the culvert under our primary driveway.
Okay,
So-
and when you put in that second driveway, is there a culvert pipe in that?
There it is.
It doesn't meet our standards.
Okay, that's my next question. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood what was going on. Okay, thank you.
The stand, can you clarify what you mean when you say?
It's a plastic pipe. We don't allow for plastic pipe, and we only permit metal pipe.
Make sure the notes are.
Okay, just making a note here. All right, so hearing that is disconcerting, because one of the things I was gonna see if we could do is to see if we could come to an agreement on fixing that other driveway and then closing the one off, but the one that is directly in front of the garage is the one that has the pipe that meets standards. And that's the one that's too steep. And that's not a lot of distance to get a grading permit to fix, really, in terms of the grade on that driveway, but it was there at the outset. So Ben or Lisa, do you have any suggestions or ways that you think we might be able to resolve this?
I have been sitting here trying to think of something that can be met. I guess, and I am thinking as a highway director right here. I'm not thinking of any personal situations and 3 drivers and, but it sounds like the reason, of course, for the second driveway was completely personal reasons of their own personal unsafe driveway. If I felt like there was a different reason that's at the entrance of the road, that maybe there was a sight distance issue, maybe that would make a difference to where we could meet in the middle somewhere. But I don't think that's the situation from what I'm hearing.
I would like to add, so whenever I first bought the property, I was instructed that it was, where the driveway was half of the extra lot. So us and our immediate neighbor do share an extra lot. The deed, I guess, was combined. I didn't realize that because on my tax statement, it shows 2 different things. So in regards to Lisa's comment about safety for amount of driveways on a county road, if that lot wouldn't have been split anyway, there would have been an extra driveway somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I'm not sure that other lot's big enough to build on though.
And no,
Honestly.
it's not. Maybe if it was the 2 combined,
So-
the neighbors and ours.
That's
Yeah.
debatable because our house is situated on the plot line.
It is.
So at inception or at build, the house that we currently reside in could have been shifted to the south to accommodate a lot in between us and our neighbors to the north. I'm sorry, to the north. So technically there are 3 legitimate lots.
Mhm.
We just so happen to have a house that sits on 2.
Half,
So-
1.5.
Right. So I mean, technically, when our house was built, it could have been placed over a little bit more to accommodate, a residence on the additional lot that we have, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2
Could be
halves
addition-
being, the 2 half lots being put together would be big enough for, So there is a discussion about a surveyor. Is that because of where that lot line is on the north side with the driveway? Is that?
That was from my initial, speaking with Ben, because I'm, as you can tell from my drawing that I sent, I am not good. I thought I had to have a very detailed surveyed map. So I didn't know if that was, and I talked to Ben later and he said, no, it wasn't necessary for this meeting.
Okay.
So that's why.
Okay, and just as an FYI, the GIS shows that the lot line cuts through the driveway, but our GIS lines are not reliable visually, so don't, I was gonna say, I don't think you need a surveyor, but okay, got it.
Well, that was kind of our idea that, if it were allowable to have the second driveway, our initial thought was make it compliant. And if that included a survey, then we were prepared to do that. But we just kind of stopped where we are, given the fact that we had the opportunity to present our case in front of them. So we just kind of put everything on hold depending on this outcome.
Okay. A question for Ben or Lisa. If their sole driveway was the one to the south, the one that's currently gravel, if that was their only driveway, are there issues with besides the culvert, which I understand, are there any issues with sight distance?
No.
If that was the driveway?
No,
No,
Okay, Okay. Well, this is one of the reasons when you hire an excavator and they're insured, that's why they're insured, because they messed up. So, you know, I'm hopeful that they'll make this right. This is a, yeah, this is a really, I understand everything you're saying, and you make some really good logical arguments about the lots and things like that, but it is, you pay tax on two parcel numbers, but it is considered one homestead in the tax rolls for the county, because it is, the house sits there. And I'm very familiar with Maple Grove Road, and that's a, it could be a pretty dangerous stretch.
It's very dangerous when I went across it in snow on my
Yeah.
driveway.
I hear
Very
that.
dangerous.
I hear that.
And any county road could be considered dangerous at any point with the 35 mile an hour speed limit. So I don't want to establish the fact that Maple Grove is dangerous in and of itself because we live there, and it kind of reflects badly on our appeal, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, not at all. I just, that's why I asked about the site distance, because I know that it's curvy and hilly, and it can be, you know, I live in the same kind of a road where
Right.
that driveways just can't go everywhere or anywhere, right? They have to be, you know, sited. If, and again, I recommend that that your excavator's insurance is what it's there for. If they were to, is it possible for them, Lisa or Ben, to close a driveway and to move the pipe, or is that something county has to do?
No, I mean, they could, if they want to close one of the drives, and then they would upgrade their pipe to meet our standards
Mhm.
for an approved permit. The only other thing I wanted to add too is I know there's, Mr. Bose mentioned the other county roads. Roads also have road classifications. This is a minor collector road, North Maple Grove Road. It's not considered a local road, which would be lower traffic counts. But when you get into minor collector roads, it's different. It has different requirements. It has more traffic. And that's why we are, and need to be cautious on entrances into the roadway also.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm aware of it and I didn't say it, and I'm glad you said it. Because that is an important consideration here as well with Maple Grove Road. Yeah, so it seems like you have a few options. I'm you know, and I've heard you, and again, I think you make some really good arguments, and I can understand the safety issue getting onto your property, especially in icy and slushy conditions. But you do have the ability to have a different driveway, not two driveways, right? And so that's where I'm going to land on this one. Sorry, Mr. and Ms. Bose, but I'm going to land on this one because it is Maple Grove Road, but you can move. It sounds like they could move the culvert pipe from the south side to the north side if it's done appropriately. Correct?
You're saying to take out the concrete drive to the driveway, to the garage.
Well, if that's your choice, what I will say is you can have one driveway, not two. And
Okay.
so it's up to you to figure out if you're going to close one, which one you close. But Lisa and Ben can provide information for you if you choose to keep the northern one that you just had made. If you wanted to, I don't know if it's possible to actually take the culvert pipe from the south and actually use it again.
So
Replace
would the
that plastic
county
pipe.
take that driveway out?
Mhm. Mhm.
We would not.
Okay.
That would be at your expense. And yeah, and that, going back, so we've only had one other driveway appeal. And we did come up with a solution for that resident at that time. They were having two driveways. They had a circular drive in the front of their house. They built a barn, had a very steep grade. They didn't have the ability to get to their garage in a good manner. So what they had done was eliminated one of those drives at the roadway, so far back out of the right of way, and then connected their two drives in a way on their own property.
Mhm. Right,
That was
Right.
acceptable to us because it
I
was,
looked at that situation. So this driveway goes into the basement, so it's super steep the whole way. There's no way to connect them. So this one goes up to the second floor in a
Yeah.
probably 45-degree angle. And then there's a steep down with,
Yeah.
I think 90 degrees, so it's about close, maybe 40 degrees.
Mhm.
And so the other one is, there's no way to connect the two.
Oh,
I mean, if you want, I
Yeah.
can show you a
Yeah.
picture. but-
that
Is-
was the only thing that I could think of to
Is-
where.
is there-
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I see what Ms. Bose is saying about
Being
where
able
the
to connect
driveways go, yeah, that they can't connect. I think the other thing that's possible is you may be able to build something out from your driveway on into your front yard area to give you the space to do an acceleration.
I'm not worried as much about the space. We had all of the cars in the steep driveway
Mhm.
for a period of time. I mean,
Mhm.
and we actually had another vehicle at that time too, so we had even more cars. The whole point that we got the driveway was to get it before the winter season,
Mhm.
because I was parking in the grass anyway
Mhm.
in the winter. So
Yeah.
instead of tearing up our yard.
Yeah.
We wanted
Uh,
to have a driveway to prevent the yard being muddy and having ruts, and, because that's where we have to park in the winter anyway. We were just not parking on a driveway.
Mhm.
We're parking
And
in
that's
the
where
grass.
I think I've seen some people that we've had to deal with that came to us, didn't build a second driveway. They came to us beforehand. They, kind of made themselves off their own concrete driveway, maybe a gravel pull off of their
Right.
personal driveway,
There's
not
no-
within the county right of way. And that's their own little personal
It goes
parking
immediately
area.
straight up.
So if you look, so if I can add, if you look from road level directly towards our
It's
house,
immediate.
the garage
straight up.
side sits on grade at ground level.
Right.
And you look at the walkout side, it's obvious, it's literally a walkout basement. So if you can imagine looking at the left side of the house as opposed to the right, that grade, we pretty much eliminate our entire front yard for the sake of having a driveway, a connecting driveway, or a
Mhm.
turnout, or concrete, or some kind of medium that would enable us to safely get off of Maple Grove Road into our one allowable driveway. So it's hard to envision removing an entire front yard for the sake of having one driveway
Okay, if you,
entrance.
I don't-
I-
okay, wait a second. So even removing the front yard, it immediately goes up. So even when I've tried to pull in with snow on it, I've almost taken out our mailbox.
Mhm.
So I don't do that anymore. I park in our grass before pre-driveway.
Mhm.
So I would drive down and park where it's flat, because the whole entire entrance on both sides of our driveway is an immediate incline. And Ben
Mhm.
has seen this. Are you understanding that there's no way to do what Lisa is saying?
I mean, there is, but it would have to
You're still
be,
going up
we'd
the
have to build
incline.
stairs up to
Yeah,
the,
you know, when you,
house from road
yeah,
level.
I get
to
what
make
you're
it
saying.
flat.
So if you come in on the new drive and went to turn up, you would be going uphill and then. have to-
Right, or if I pull, or if the current driveway here, if I already have a pull out right there, like I have room. It's just that you immediately go up, this is all an incline right here.
In order to make the current gravel driveway our primary driveway, we would have to remove probably, I would estimate 150-foot pine tree that is probably 6 foot in diameter. A second tree in the front of our property, and then turn at a 90-degree angle to get in our driveway. So I agree. I don't know how that's
Mhm.
feasible to, adapt
Yeah.
the gravel driveway to get to the garage effectively, if that makes sense.
The other option you have is between the garage, that's a garage door there, right?
Correct.
Okay, because that's the other thing is you want to keep the garage as a garage, I assume. That between the garage door and the apron, which is where it connects with the county road, if you were to widen your driveway, a couple, at least one car width, maybe two, then you can use sort of a diagonal way to get up and out, which would make the incline less perceptible, especially in inclement weather, right? So in other words, you can really use a bigger concrete driveway itself, and just kind of where those cars are parked, just kind of in the picture, just kind of extend it out. And then when you're going up, you're not just going, straight up, you're going on an angle,
Yeah,
right? And that,
I had to do the angle, but you just slide into the yard.
So I can see benefits of that, with the exception of, if that were the case, if you did that, you'd be limited to entering the driveway from one direction only. We'd have to drive around the block to hit the driveway lined up with that diagonal. Does that make sense? Like we'd
well,
have,
it would depend on where you park the cars, right? So if you widen the driveway and then park the cars beyond that, you would have that whole area for going north or south. You would be able to either use that diagonal width to go
Right.
north or use the diagonal width to go south, but your cars wouldn't be able to be parked where they are now on this overhead picture in the pictometry that I see.
right, so widening, that definitely is an option, but we'd still be dealing with the incline situation. Unless it was offset at the current grade where the concrete is currently placed, right?
And that's the other thing I was going to ask. I don't know if you've looked at this recently, Ben or Lisa, if there is a possibility to get some sort of, if you think there's a possibility to get some grading done on that early part of the driveway to make it more accessible, to make it safer. Do you think, just what you know of this property, if they brought their excavator out on his dime, on his insurance, and had them regrade their driveway, if that's a possibility as well?
We didn't have an excavator do our current driveway.
Right,
You're referring to the excavator responsible for the gravel driveway, right?
right, because they shouldn't have done that, right? Because they shouldn't have done
Right.
that. So
Right.
that's your battle.
I don't understand what that means.
But the question is, on your concrete driveway, is it
Wow.
possible to do some regrading?
I don't,
At the bottom, they say it's flat.
The whole second driveway is completely flat. That's why we put it in. It's
No,
100.
I'm talking about the cement driveway. I'm talking about the cement driveway that goes to the
Okay,
garage.
so that was whenever I bought the house in 2007. So that was built in 1991. So no one's going to come and do that for us.
From road's edge to garage door, it's an incline. There's no flat
It's
spot.
straight
It does not
Yeah.
ramp up. It's straight grade.
It's
I don't know
straight
to what degree, but.
Mhm.
So you mentioned, just out of curiosity, one driveway for safety reasons, right, Ms. Ridge? Not.
And what I mean by that is eliminating less access
Sure,
to the county road.
understandable. What about if that driveway was on a different road?
It's still per lot.
Okay, that's why I asked. I understand the ordinance is per lot, but I'm just thinking of possibilities.
I would just like to say I'm frustrated because we're talking about medical reasons, but it's okay if our driveway is unsafe, that we just still can only have one driveway. Even if it makes it safer, we're not considering that option. All I'm hearing is that it's one driveway. And I just want to express that I'm frustrated.
And
And I
if I
guess
could
we
add-
have to look at the whole county too, on
Right.
if we had to
Well-
look at every steep driveway
Right.
that's
But we
built.
fixed it. So.
No,
we
I'm
fixed
not,
it.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
overall, where do you draw the line on making
Well,
exceptions
you
for
draw the
people?
line by having things like this to explain it, and it's not just for a reason for wanting it.
Yeah, it's not a personal reason. It's
It's a
strictly
safety.
safe. We have 2 teenage drivers right now. Next spring, we'll have a third. So
And it doesn't even have a.
we often miss the driveway in inclement weather.
Right.
So we were trying to prevent
I
3
park in the
additional
grass.
individuals on a daily basis encountering the same
So
situation.
my my question is, if we have to only have one driveway, is it, if we take the driveway out, I can just keep parking in the grass?
We'll just
Is that
continue to drive
benefit,
over it.
is that
We'll
what
move it back
is
from the easement and
expected?
drive over it. I mean,
I
that's
mean, that's what
allowable,
we'll have to
right?
do. That's what we've done. I've done
We've
that
done it
since
for
two
years.
thousand seven.
We just thought, hey,
If it's not creating a hazard for, and within the county right of way. Now, if somebody decides to call and wants to go to our traffic commission board and says there's an issue of cars parking along the roadway, we want no parking.
There's nothing I'll be able to do. I driveway.
I mean, I'm just trying to forget, I'm just trying to think of worst case scenarios.
Okay.
Because we get those kind of requests
I just
on,
feel like this is.
Well, I guess
craziness.
maybe the question that comes to my mind after that is, if it's grass, does that mean it's not a driveway?
I
Right?
can
I mean,
park
is
there.
it definitional that if it's a grass area, it's not a driveway? I
what
kind of think,
services define it
Well, and
as a
when I
driveway?
talked to Ben, he said 25 feet from center. So if I take it out from 25 feet from center and then just have gravel the rest of the way, then it's fine. Is
That's a
that what I'm
question.
asking?
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
if that
Except-
not
And we
means
just,
that,
and we just drive
If-
through the grass to the gravel.
if that gravel is not within the county right of way, we have no jurisdiction over it.
Right, but here's the issue. You have a culvert in there.
It was, I drove over it for 13 years.
Well,
It's,
so-
it's very little.
We
It's-
remove
There's
the,
nothing there.
we
We're
remove
talking
the
about the new
gravel.
one.
Yeah, so if
But there, I know, it's flat. So
well,
we
but
had
if,
to dig out the culvert.
if it's determined here today that we can no longer have that driveway accessible by Maple Grove Road, we would not only remove the gravel, we'd remove the culvert as
Right.
well.
It's a
That's-
flat
that's what
area.
Yeah, so that was added
Okay.
because of us, right? It was not there prior to secondary
The
driveway.
neighbor right
Sure.
beside us.
We
there's
would not
no ditch, there's
attempt to
nothing.
drive over the culvert.
And that's kind of how the other driveway appeal went.
Uh-huh.
Outside of our right of way, we have no jurisdiction. The only thing that we can speak of is within that 25 foot of our right of way of an
That's it.
entrance.
Yeah.
So we would just
And-
drive over the grass.
And I get your frustration. I really do.
I just think it
hear
looks worse just to have grass.
I get it.
I totally
It
understand.
makes no
I
sense.
get it. But here's something, I've been on the Plan Commission since 2009. This is something we always talk about when we hear a zoning appeals case or some of the appeals that we used to get on the BZA. And that is the issue a problem not of the petitioner's doing? In other words, your circumstances changed with the number of vehicles, the age of the drivers.
I would
It's
like to
not
say that's
that.
wrong. No, because that's wrong. I don't want that in the minutes. We have always had this problem with the weather and I've always parked there.
So it's not an increase
This
in
is not-
individuals.
it's not a
with driving
change.
abilities.
It's just that we decided to make it nicer and have a driveway
And
instead of
safer.
parking in the grass and making it mud by the winter.
Mhm.
Like it was awful by spring.
Right, I get that, but that's where you have to, as a homeowner, make the decision, which driveway do I want? Do I want one that doesn't go to a garage, that has the appropriate culvert in it, or do I want to keep the one that came with the house? Because the house was built, you bought the house already built.
Right, we
So-
will just go back
So
to
you
parking. in
have
the
a
grass.
choice, you have a choice, neither of them are ideal, and I hear that, I definitely hear that, and I do understand the steep driveway issue, we have that all around us here. And it is very limiting, and it has changed the way people have engineered their driveways, they've made them, the standard width coming in, and then they've doubled them and use sort of a cross pattern to drive in and out of them in bad weather. But we're talking some pretty
Yeah.
steep driveways. out
Pattern
here.
is not the concern to me, it's the grade of our primary driveway.
So you had asked a question about a separate street. Do you line up to a different street?
We have a
So we have a very small county easement. Our property butts up to Amherst, so it runs.
Oh,
So,
okay.
well, and that's not ideal either, but that's why I asked that question. It's, safety is of most concern, right? But what if it were on
And
another?
that's why
Yeah,
I
sure.
hear your pleas on
Yeah.
the safety part, and
Right.
I am listening.
Sure.
And I believe there was a driveway up north that we ended up having to double because it was off a second road. That's why I'm trying to think of all those options.
Yeah.
Is there a parking off Amherst that could be done to help you with your safety issue?
So please don't hold anybody else liable, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. We have a neighbor that literally has 3 driveways. 2 of those were placed after our secondary driveway. So I don't want to say that, what's good for the goose, is good for the gander, right? But I really struggle to grasp the grandfathered in concept. Just the fact that because someone is greater in age than I am, and their home is there, and they've been there, that they're, how they have their lots configured is allowable.
So
I
their driveways were put in before our code was passed?
Their main driveway was,
Their second
their half
driveways?
driveway was not, it was after ours. And like I said, my intent is not to drag anyone else into this, but I feel, I don't want to say discriminated, but just how all of this unfolded. I know it's our responsibility to do our due diligence, to check permits, check ordinances, all those things. But
Well, you
we have
relied on a
water issue.
contractor.
we've had a long ongoing water issue, and the county was really great on coming out and doing an assessment on the water. And then a week later, we get a notification of permit violation for a driveway. So, and when the county was there with me, we literally stood on the other non-compliant driveway on another property. So I feel like, okay, so I get it. When you're doing an assessment of a property, you're looking at the entire property, and I'm sure you're checking into what other,
Not always.
in or
Not
out.
always.
Well, maybe, but it could be. I understand that. It
Yeah.
could be.
Oh, and, stormwater and highway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustration I have is I see several in the neighborhood that are non-compliant. I see some that I don't have, any background in stormwater, highway safety, none of that. I can look out one of our doors and windows and I can see a driveway. The culverts are literally above road grade. And I would be astounded to know that is safe. But because it's been there for years, it's allowable. So that's the problem
I
I
would love
have.
to go around the county and address every bad driveway that's out there. We
I
don't
know,
have,
but someone has to, right?
we don't
People
have-
are paid to do just that, right?
and we do the best that
I
we
agree.
can if it's
I
brought
agree.
to our attention.
Right. I'm
We're
not
not out there
debating that.
Searching for it, that's
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
like I said, we complain and complain and complain, and neighbors have complained about a water issue that cannot be rectified in the mind of the county. And then lo and behold, a gravel driveway is what brings us here today. I'm not downgrading the severity of, an accident that could that could happen in that driveway that we could be liable for, but it's just for the safety of our family, to be quite honest with you. It's flat. I'm hearing it's no better or no worse in sight distances, according to how much traffic, because it sounds like that's a high traffic road, right? So in being a higher traffic road, sight distances have to increase. So I guess I wish that I had those numbers to show where that secondary driveway is in relation to acceptable sight distances based on traffic, I guess.
Yeah,
That's nothing that was shared with us. Maybe we have to obtain it on our own, but other than just saying that, the ordinance says you can't have one. That's
This
what's
is
frustrating
a
to
couple
me.
questions
So
I have.
thank you for.
So whenever we've talked about like coming to an agreement, that works for everybody and that's happened in the past, like what is considered landscaping? Like would pea gravel or something like that be considered a landscape that would connect the two, like the gravel we have from the 25 feet back, or is mulch or something so it wouldn't be muddy? Like what, because I've heard before that was come to an agreement in both parties and,
Well, they weren't inside the right of way.
okay.
That did not,
But
that
really- so
entrance
there's
did
really no
not,
agreement.
did
It's really
not
just
touch
to-
the county right of way, did not come to the edge of pavement.
So, yeah, and
So
I
there
agree,
is no
there's technically not an agreement. You can't have a second driveway. And you can spend your own money to adapt the current driveway, even though it's a safety concern.
So if we want to go further from this, if it's denied, what are our options? Like, do we have to get an attorney or?
That's,
Like, I don't, okay.
and like I said, I want this to be cordial and we appreciate the opportunity to come in here and, you know, appeal our case.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I wish, you know, my profession is pretty process driven. I wish that there were a process that, you know, I'm under the understanding that there's a medical condition that this obviously is taken into consideration for.
Mhm.
There's no safety.
Right.
condition.
For ambulances, for ambulance and emergency
Right,
vehicle
that's
access.
So if I said that, okay, there you go. So if I say that an ambulance cannot get up our driveway, if we have an emergency and inclement weather, then that would be considered. Because I would like that to be put on the record.
That's not how the statute reads.
That was my-
It's ongoing issues. And if, say, for example, there was a disabled vet who could not
He said disabled.
get their
That's a disability.
adaptable van,
So
somewhere,
mobility issues of
you
sorts.
know, because they have to get to a walkway and the driveway, you know, that may happen, but it may be that they're just asked to move the driveway. The problem is every one of these decisions sets a precedent. And I'm very well aware of that.
Well, so
And,
on the other
and
side of that, a precedent has been set in the fact that there are neighbors within a tenth of a mile of me that don't meet ordinance code as well. So they're setting the precedent that you can have multiple driveways. And I know for a fact it's not permitted. He has one off of three, actually off of Amherst Road, three entrances.
Mhm.
And, like, so that's what I struggle with is I'm not trying to circumvent the process, but if we set an ordinance, let's enforce it.
okay, well,
I
we
mean,
can,
that's all I.
we can send inspectors out and that's great, but, and before you do anything for your property off of Amherst, just be sure to check in with Highway about whether there is an easement there, if it's wide enough, et cetera. And that's an important thing to do, for sure. But I don't, you know, and that I raised the issue of having an insured bonded excavator because they're responsible for the mess they got you into and they should pay to fix it. And it may be that they have another idea or an option that they may be able to suggest as well. And if that's the case, then just contact Ben and or Lisa and say, hey, here's another idea that this person came up with. Can we do this instead? And I know that we're all happy to help out in any way that we can on that chord. But it's difficult because again, this is how the property was when you bought the property. Nothing has changed. The roadway hasn't moved, and it's your situation's changed. And yes, it may not have been an ideal driveway to begin with. I've had the same issues, but we work around it and have to do what we can to make things work in bad weather. And I know it's not ideal. I know it's not. I could wave a wand and there'd be 3,000 driveways per mile on county roads. It would be kind of crazy.
No,
but,
I understand.
yeah.
That's not safe.
Yeah. So, but again, it's really back to that principle. It's the weather hasn't changed, although it has changed, but the weather hasn't changed. Your circumstances have changed. And in terms of the drivers, but nothing else has changed. And that was the driveway that came with that house that you bought. So we would need something compelling to kind of bring us over the top and say, oh no, this is required. We really need to do this because something else changed. And it's just not there. And I'm terribly sorry it's not. But because I read through the packet when we first got it, and I've been referencing it and reading through it as we've been working as well. But you shouldn't be out any money And I will say that because that's on the excavator.
We can do the driveway
Well,
ourselves. It's
so
not- it's
I-
gravel, so. we
I can
easily
see the excavator being fully compliant and coming to our property and removing the work that he's accomplished. I severely doubt that he would provide any assistance unless we paid that person to alter our primary driveway, to make it more accessible for us, preventing a second driveway in the first place. So I think he'll be fully, aware that, he has to come remove it. But I don't see how that helps with the existing driveway, I guess.
I think personally, I think they owe you more than that because they led you astray and they made you pay for something that was valueless.
Okay.
$150.
But that's me.
Yeah, we can
I'm
get
not an
it.
attorney and I'm not giving you legal advice.
Right, no, understood.
I had a meeting at 3:30. This got pushed back and so I'm running over. What the next process is,
Guess that's-
like to go to court or whatever.
So
we have to do.
it's official then, right? Removal.
Okay.
Pick one, figure something out. Let's give them some extra time to do this, Ben and Lisa. Let's give them some additional time to figure this out because this might take an engineering marvel. It might take real creative thinking. Let's give them some extra time to get this fixed. I'm not gonna be pressed for time on this one, but I just feel like we definitely have to move, get them in compliance. But I'm not interested in making this like a 30-day thing or anything like that. So if you could be flexible with the time, that would be really incredibly helpful, I think, for them.
Well, and that would probably enable further litigation if we choose to do that as well. I mean, honestly, I don't take that the wrong way, please.
No, you're
But
fine.
if we do.
It's fine.
for that
It's all
happen-
business.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Why don't you, assuming that this is acceptable with highway, why don't you get back with us within a week?
I'm free to stay if you want
Well, we're all about you.
to. Of course.
If you can
Okay.
get back with us within 7 days and with some kind of a plan forward to fix the
So
problem.
is
Then
the,
we can determine.
is
how-
the Amherst completely off the table on
The
your
Amherst
behalf?
is off the table. There, I mean, I'm assuming there is a,
Hey, can I call time?
Yeah.
Can we go ahead and close the hearing so that I don't
Yeah.
have to take
Oh,
notes
yeah.
on all this?
Thanks, Julie.
I'm gonna close the hearing. We're adjourned. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, there's a fire hydrant.
there's a
So-
fire hydrant and it's one tiny corner.
That's exactly where this culvert that was placed when the neighborhood was developed back in the 60s. That was our initial complaint. An entire neighborhood above us filters into one culvert, dumps on our property, has caused water issues for us. So that little piece of access by means of easement that we could potentially have